Hi dear student friends, so myself Manjunatha PC, working as Senior Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Reva Institute of Technology and Management, Yelahanka, Bangalore. So I would like to take a sessions on functions, arrays and strings in continuation with my previous sessions. So today I will take you on again the functions, arrays and strings, and before we proceed, so let us see what we had discussed in the previous class. So in the previous session we have seen an introduction to the two-dimensional array of matrices, and then we continued with the matrix multiplication algorithm, and then we have seen a program in C to compute the product of two matrices, and then we have seen the introduction to the another main feature of these arrays, so that is the strings. Then we have seen how to declare a string and how to initialize the strings, and we have seen a simple program wherein we print a string, and also we have seen the cases where we read the string. So in the today's session, so we will be learning here a programs on strings in continuation with the previous session, and here we see a program to compute the length of a string, and then program to print the string in reverse. So then a program to compare two strings, and also we will see the character handling library functions. So C also supports certain library functions which we can use in manipulating the various operations over the characters as well as the strings. But here in this session we will see only the functions that are associated with the handling the characters. And then we continue with reading a sentence and printing frequency of vowels in total count of consonants in a sentence. So this is one of your lab programs. So we will see how exactly we can program it, so that we will count the number of frequencies of the vowels in a given sentence, and also we will count the number of consonants and we will print the appropriate message. So then we will see a two-dimensional array of characters. So that is nothing but an array of strings, so which we will see at the end of the session. And in before we start with the array of strings, we look into the concept of pointers. So look into a program on strings, so wherein we have to count the number of characters in a string. So how to count the number of characters in a string? So we know that the strings are nothing but the arrays. Only thing is they are terminated with a null character. The terminating of a array of characters with a null character, that null character will give us an idea of so counting the number of characters present in a string. So the logic here is, so the count the number of characters up to the /0. /0 is basically a null character. What is supposed to do here is, from the 0th location of the array we have to go on reading the characters one by one, so until we see the null character. So far how many characters we have read, so that will be the length of the string, so whichever is under example. So now say for example, if I have declared an array of 10 characters, and let me assume so the string as hello. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 characters in the string, and here we can see like a of 0 is H, a of 1 is E, a of 2 is L, a of 3 is L, a of 4 is O, and then a of 5 is a null character. Remaining elements of the array will be taken as the value 0 because it is partially initialized, right? So here we have taken only the valid 6 locations which are essential for storing a string, and remaining locations values will be 0. So in fact the value of the null character which will be stored in the memory is a 0 only. So even these also mean the null characters only. Now so here, so when you start reading the length of the string, if you want to compute here, when I is equal to 0 we will see the letter H, when I is equal to 1 we see the letter E, when I is equal to 2 we see the letter L, when I is equal to 3 we see again the letter L, when I is equal to 4 we see the letter O, and when I is equal to 5 we see the letter /0, so which is a null character. The moment we see this /0 we have to stop iterating in a loop, and you have to declare that the value of I itself as the length of the string. So though the index starts from 0, when the value of I is 5, here we have reached the null character from the end user point of view. So how many characters are present in the string hello? We have 5 characters. So is when we reach the null character, the index of that particular location you have to present as the length of the string. So let's look into a program. So here first we have to do the declaration necessary for handling a string, and then you have to seek for a string, and then after reading the string you have to process a program using a loop iterator, so using which so we will compute the length of the string. So now look into this particular code here, what exactly we are trying to do. So now here we are declaring str as an array of 100 characters, right? And then we have taken two variables of type integer I and length. I is useful for the loop iteration, and length so just to hold the last index of, so that is the null character index of the array into the length, which will hold the length of the string. Now here enter a string to compute its length, printing a message, and then we are reading a string here, scan of percentages str. Here you have to note that we are not using ampersand str, because the ampersand str and str both mean the same here, because str will hold the starting address of this 100 array of characters what is being stored in the memory. Each character will take 1 byte, so 100 bytes of memory will be allocated there, and the first starting 0th element address will be stored in str, so which also mean like str is the address of base address of this complete array of 100 characters. So that str will hold it. So here scanf anyhow it expects only the address there, so str is providing the address there. Even if you mention ampersand str also, it works in a same fashion. Now if you look into the looping construct here, which is counting the length of the string here, when I is equal to 0, I'll check here str of I not equal to null character. If it is not equal to null character, then I'll come to the body of the loop. In the body of the loop, you can see like I am not using any statement here. So means I don't have any statement, but I am using here as a null statement. Null statement means do nothing statement. I no need to perform anything in the loop. I just need to iterate one by one until I find null character. So here again the I plus plus I gets incremented. Then again we will check str of 1 not equal to 0 null character. So again. So here, condition is true. If it is true, then we will come to the body of the loop, do nothing operation. We don't perform any valid operation there. Then again we go with the I plus plus, right? So incrementation of I. So this we continue. Until the null character is seen there. So here we have mentioned a condition str of I not equal to null character. Instead of this particular condition, I can also use a condition as str of I equal to 0. So here I equal to 0 in the loop, and then I plus plus. I can end this loop with a semicolon. The only reason why I have taken this null statement or in do nothing statement in the next line is to make sure that we are not ending this loop with a semicolon here. If you write semicolon here, then normally when you are using the looping construct, we do not end that with a semicolon. Fine. So you are using this kind of loops for the first time. So I am just taking that semicolon into the next line to say that I don't have any valid statements in the body of the loop. I have a do nothing statement just. So we represent that with a semicolon there. So now when I come out of this loop, what happens? So when I is equal to certain index wherein we have reached the null character, then that the value of I itself will hold the length of the string. So I assign length is equal to I. In the previous example, if you see here, in this particular case, when I is 0, it will be H. When I is 1, it is E. I is 2, it is L. I is 3, it is L. When I is 4, it is O. When I is 5, so it is a null character will be coming out of the loop. So when you come out of the loop, what we'll do? We assign the value of I into a variable called length. So now we will print the length of the string. Now the length of the string percentage S is percentage D. So here str comma length. So if the if you have given the string as hello, then it will give like the length of this length of string hello is 5. That will be the outcome of this particular code. Now let us look into another program, how to print a string in reverse. So that is, when you are printing a string in reverse, the last character should come first and the first character should go at the end. So if that is the case, then what we are supposed to do? So what is the idea of doing here? So now here what logic we can compute is like compute string length. Say if you are holding a length variable to hold the length of the string, and then print the array elements from index length minus 1 down to 0. So here what happens means length index means in the previous example we have seen like when I was 5, it was holding to the null character. So fine. So when I minus 1 means it is the previous character, that is the end of the string. So now if you look into this particular same example here, so when I is equal to 5, we have reached the null character here, that is the length of the string. So now length minus 1 means 5 minus 1, it is 4. So from here onwards I go on printing the characters one by one backward, right? So now what happens when I is equal to 4, I will print O. When I is equal, decrement I value, when it becomes 3 I print L, then again I decrement, when it becomes 2 I will print L, again I decrement the value of I, when it is 1 I will print the value E, and again I decrement it, when it becomes 0 I will print H there, and when further when I decrement it, it becomes -1. So what we are supposed to do here, print the characters from the index length -1 down to the 0th index. Fine. So this is the logic of computing the printing of a string in reverse. So now if you look into this particular code here, again I have taken the same array of 100 characters, the string str, then I have taken two loop so integer variables. I is the loop iterator, so length is a variable to hold the length of the string. So now I compute in the first particular looping construct here. See here I am ending this loop with a semicolon. Normally we do not end with a semicolon, but logically here we require that the loop has to be ended with a semicolon. How long I am going to iterate in this loop? Until I reach a null character. Once I reach the null character, so I will be the value of the length. So I assign, so length is equal to I. So I am getting the length of the string there. Now I supposed to print the string in reverse. So before I start printing the characters of the string, I print a message, the reverse of a string %s. That is, if I am printing hello there, so then the reverse of a string %s in place of %s, so which is a placeholder for the string str. If str is hello there, then the reverse of a string hello is printed there, is, then I am allowing the looping construct there again. Now after printing that, so basically what happens here is, with respect to this particular printing statement, so what message will be displayed is the reverse of a string hello is. So is going to be printed there. Now what happens is, I go for the looping construct. In the loop, what I am trying to do is, what is the initial condition for the I here? I is equal to length -1. So what is the length value? Length value is the 5. Basically this array is a, so here hello, if the string I am giving here as hello, so then I is equal to length -1 means I becomes 4 as the index, right? So when I is equal to 4, so 4 greater than or equal to 0. So if you see here, when I is equal to 4 here, so this 4 is greater than or equal to 0, so I will print the character present here. So that is, I will print the character as a O. Then after that, again I go for the loop. When I go for the loop again, so the I value get decremented. When I becomes 3, 3 is again greater than or equal to 0. When 3 is greater than or equal to 0, again I will print the previous character there, so that is L. So then after that, again, so I iterate in the loop, and when I am iterating in a loop again, so then, so again I gets decremented. So when I get decremented, it becomes 2. So 2 is again greater than or equal to 0. Again I print a character. So here again it is pointing to L. So there when I is equal to 2, again we are pointing to L there. So then similarly further I decrement, when I decrement further, it will be pointing to E, because I has become 1. Then after that, further I decrement the I value. When I decrement it, it becomes 0 there. When it becomes 0, it will be pointing to the value H there. So now what happens is, further when I decrement, so I becomes, when I was 0 there, we have printed the H. Further when I decrement, it becomes -1, and -1 is not greater than or equal to 0 there. So when -1 is not greater than or equal to 0, I will come out of the loop. So thereby what has happened is, we have printed the reverse of a string. So here example I have taken it as hello. If I give any string, its reverse will be printed over there. See, you have to make a note here that we are not changing the memory content of the str array. We are just printing the characters of an array in reverse, starting from the last but one location to the 0th location. Now, so let's consider the another example. So how to another program of computing the comparing of the two strings. How to compare the two strings? So if you have a two integer numbers, we can do the comparison with the relational operators, and we can say like whether a number, the first number is lesser than the second number, or greater, or equal, or not equal, something like that. But similarly we cannot perform the operations on strings, because string is a aggregate data type, right? Because it is an array. So if I have two arrays, I cannot just like A array is less than B array, I cannot compare like that. If it is an individual element only, I can perform that operation. When it is a string, again here it is a aggregate data type. Arrays are basically the aggregate data types. So strings also, it is an array of characters. When it is array of a character, the only option is we have to compare the character by character. Every string, two strings, if I am taking S1 and S2, then every character I supposed to compare there there, character by character, and then conclude whichever is higher than the other one. Say for example, if I have two strings S1 and S2, if S1 is lesser than S2, then I return a negative value, and if S1 is equal to S2, then I return the value as 0, and if S1 is greater than S2, then I return the value as a positive value. So what exactly it mean is, say for example, two strings, if I am taking the example as, say for example, STR1, if I am taking it as ABC, and if I am taking STR2, the another array of characters, assume the data type as char. It has to be char only because it is array of characters ACB. Now, so in STR1 we have the string ABC, and in STR2 we have the string ACB, right. Now, so we have to compare character by character. First we will compare A and A. So A and A is equal. The value of ASCII value of A is 65. When you are comparing the characters here, you have to compare the ASCII values associated with the character. That is the main intention here. So now, so here A and A I will compare. The ASCII value of both A and A is 65 there. Again, when I compare the next character B and C, it is a capital B and it is a capital C there. Normally, what are the ASCII values? The A value is 65 and the B value is 66 and the C value is 67. Now what happens is, so the B value what is there, it is less than the C value. B value is 66 whereas C value is 67 there. When it is lesser than, it means like STR1 is less than STR2. Right. So now what happens is STR, which is the character where exactly we are finding the difference in the second character. What is the ASCII value of B here? 66. Now, so minus 67. What is the ASCII value of the character C here? 67. When I do here, what is the value I get? Minus 1. So is the reason. So if you look at the logic here, when a string 1 is lesser than the string 2, then a negative value must be returned over there. We are taking the ASCII difference and we are returning a negative value. Right. Now, assume the situation as something like this is B, so this is a C and this is B. If this is the situation, now what happens is this particular value is what? The ASCII value of C is 67, and what is the ASCII value of STR2 in the second character? It is 66. So here what we are getting? The plus 1. So that is, so we can say like the first string is greater than the second string, means we will be getting the positive value there. So whenever you get a positive value, it means that the first string is higher than the second string, and whenever you get a negative value, first string is so at the lower order compared to the second string. So basically the ordering means what? Like in the dictionary we can find that the letters the words in the dictionary will be alphabetical ordering. That's what, based on the alphabetical ordering only we have to do the comparison of the string. So now if you look into a program associated with this, so only logic here is we have to compare character one by one, and whenever we find the ASCII difference of first string character is lesser than the second string character, we have to return the negative value, and whenever the ASCII value of first string character is greater than the ASCII value of the second string character, then you have to return the positive value. If it is same in all the situations, say in this particular example, if string 1 is also ABB and string 2 is also ABB. Now what happens? First character is also same, second is also same, third is also same, and finally I will be having a null character here also and here also. Now what happens here? So finally, so the null character means both are having the same sequence of characters. It means like both are of same string. So it means that in that particular case I will be returning the value as a 0. The why exactly we return the value here 0 we will get to know in the programming. Now if you want to program this logic now, so we have to declare the two strings here, STR1 which is an array of 100 characters. I have to declare another string STR2 which is again an array of 100 characters. Then I have to take here two variables I and a flag. The flag is what I am saying here, return value. That return value I am trying to store in a variable called a flag, and I is for loop iterator. So where I have to compare character one by one between the string 1 and string 2. First I suppose to read the string, so enter a string 1. So I am using the scanf statement percentages comma str1. Here you should not use percentage C. Percentage C is meant for reading one single character, and it will not work here because str1 is an array of characters. It is an aggregate data there. So here you must use, when you are reading a string, percentage yes. Now enter a string 2. When I read the string 2 here, so here what happens, scanf percentages str2, I am reading the string 2 also. Now I initialize I value as a 0 here. Here I am using the while loop, which if you are feeling comfortable with for loops, you can use this with the for loop also, where the initialization statement is I is equal to 0. Since I am using the while loop, before entering the loop, I check here, I initialize the value of I as a 0. I have to start comparing with the 0th element of the two strings. Now in the while loop, what I am trying to do here is str1 of I, is it equal to str of 2 of I? Str of 1 of I double equal str2 of I. So I am just comparing this. So if it is unequal here, then this will never be executed, because that is how the logical AND will perform the operation. So when I am using the logical AND between the two expression, if the result of this particular first expression is false, then no need of computing the second expression, because the ultimate result will be false only. So whenever the result of the first expression is true, only then I check for the second expression to confirm whether the result of the complete expression will be true or false. So now what happens here is, when str1 of 0 is same as str2 of 0. So here in the example you can tell, like I have taken two strings here, a, b, b. When I am taking the strings a, b, b there, str1 of 0 is same as str2 of 0. So the condition is true, and str1 of 0 not equal to null cat, even that condition is also true. I will come to the loop, I increment the I value. When I increment the I value, what happens is str1 of 1 it will be. So I becomes 1 there, str1 of 1, is it equal to str2 of 1. So here I have taken b. Even if you consider second character also as b, then b is equal to b condition is true, and again I will check str1 of 1 not equal to null character. Yes, it is not equal to null character. Again I come to a loop, I iterate with the I plus plus. So when I further I is incremented, it becomes 2. When it becomes 2, I do the comparison, str1 of 2 is it equal to str2 of 2. When I do this comparison, again I have the character b in the example what I have taken. So now what happens is str1 of this condition is true here, because both the characters are having the letter b there. Then what happens, str1 of 2 not equal to null character. Yes, it is not equal to null character. So I is further incremented. So I becomes 3 there. When I becomes 3, look at this particular example. So this index is 0, this index is 1, this index is 2, this index is 3. When it is 3 here, who will be there in the third location, in the fourth location in the string? We have stated that, and we have seen in the previous sessions, like, so always a string must be terminated with a null character, right? So when it is a null character has to be there in a string. If it's null character is not there in a string, then we will treat that as just an array of characters. We call a string only when array of character is terminated by a null character, right? So now, so here what happens is, so when I has become a 3, so str1 of 3 is a null character. It is equal to str2 of 0 also, because that also I have taken the same string there. So now it is equal there. Now I will check the condition, and str1 of 3 not equal to null character. Here it is equal to null character. I will be coming out of the while loop. When I am coming out of the while loop, what I do now is I is not incremented there. Make a note. So now what happens is like str1 of 3 minus str2 of 3. So that is 0 minus 0 is 0 is the value of a flag. So whenever the string 1 is greater than the string 2, we will terminate at the middle of the iteration only, and somewhere in the string, and we get a positive value for a flag because of the ASCII difference. str1 of I is greater than the str of 2 of I, then we get a positive value for flag. And whenever the first string is lower than the second string, so then what happens, the ASCII difference str1 of I minus str of 2 of I results a negative value. So flag will be getting the negative value there. Now based on the conditions of the flag, if flag is 0, the strings are same. So if flag is positive value, it means that the strings are the first string is higher than the second string. Similarly, if flag is lesser than 0. So, then it means like the first string is lower than the second string. So, based on that conditions we can print the result here. If flag is equal to 0, the strings are equal, they are the equal string. If flag is greater than 0 means what, we have got the positive value there. When you have got the positive value, what is the result there? The string 1 is higher than the string 2. Now, else means what, the flag has to be negative only. If these two condition fails, flag is neither 0 nor greater than 0 means what, the flag has to be lesser than 0. When it is lesser than the 0 means what, the first string is lower to the second string. So, that is the string 1 is lower than the second string there, fine. So, now here I am mentioning here string 1, I am not mentioning the exact string there. If I want to use exact string, then I must use here the percentage s is higher than percentage s, and the parameter I supposed to pass here in the printf is str1 comma str2. So, I think you are comfortable with the usage of the format specifiers as and when required. So, here we can say like the string 1 is higher than string 2 in the situation when flag is greater than 0, and similarly when it is less than 0, string 1 is lower than the string 2. This is the way how you can program a simple programs on the strings. Now, so, there are likewise so many different functions you can perform, or so many different operations you can perform over the strings. So, there are so many operations like something like the finding a particular string in an array of strings. If you have the multiple names, then a list of names, then we may look for a particular name in the list, or we will look for a particular character in a string, and so on. So, fine, but before we proceed with such examples, let us see some of the character handling library functions supported by the C. So, when you are in the C, we have so many different string character handling functions as well as string handling functions. So, these particular library functions exclusively meant for handling the characters only, and this character handling library functions are exclusively meant for handling the characters only. We can perform so many modifications, and we may perform so many manipulations, and we can perform so many other operations over the character data. Similarly, we have even a string handling library functions also. In case of string handling library functions, we perform operations on strings. Operation of string is operations of strings are different from operations of a character. When you are doing the operation on character, we are performing over a single character. When you are performing the operation on string, we are performing on the multiple characters, that is a group of characters, or we can say like array of characters terminated by a null character. So, now, so here the character handling functions, it includes functions to perform a useful test and manipulations on the character data only, right. So, here are the character handling functions. So, here we can perform the operations and the test over the character data only, right. So, that means a variable of type char. So, that is the character data, whereas an array of character is a string, right. So, here we perform operations only on the characters. Now, each function receives a character or an int as a parameter or an end of file as an argument here. So, each function means the functions of this character handling library functions. Now, the name of the library where exactly these particular the functions we can find is a ctype.h. This is the a character type header. So, where exactly we find then various functions which can be useful for performing operations over the characters. Now, let us see some of the few functions which are essential, so or which are commonly used in programming. So, these are the few library functions of ctype.h. So, in that particular header we find these many along with this. So, there are many other even character handling functions also, but here I have listed only the commonly used character handling functions. Now, here the first function if I take, it is digit, and it takes integer as a parameter and return integer there. So, when I am saying here the terms like it is taking the parameter as int and returning a data of type integer, this concepts you will get to understand once after we see the concept of functions. Anyhow, so if you look into these particular function prototypes here, these are basically the prototype of a function or the signature of the function. Here we doesn't know what exactly is digit is doing inside a function, like is alpha is doing inside a function. What exactly we know is only the name of the function. So, basically is digit what it does is, it will take an integer as a parameter and it will confirm, means characters are taken here in terms of integers, right. So, is digit will take a character as a parameter here. So, now, so it will confirm whether that particular character is a digit or a an alphabet or some other thing. So, if it is a digit, then it returns the true value, otherwise it returns the false value. Returning a true value means it returns 1, and returning a false value means it returns a 0 there. Similarly, we have is alpha function. So, whichever the parameter I am passing there, if it is an alphabet, then the function returns 1, otherwise the function returns a 0. Now, similarly, is all num. So, this particular function returns 1 if the parameter passing here is the character whichever I am passing it as a parameter here, if it is an alphabet or even if it is a number. So, then we have is lower. This particular function what it does is, if I am giving the uppercase letter, it will say that its the value return value as 0 because the number is not a, so the character is not a lowercase letter. If I am giving the lowercase letter, then this particular function will return 1 stating that the character is a lowercase letter. Similarly, is upper. The is upper confirms whether the given character is an uppercase letter or a lowercase letter. And we have two other functions, that is 2 lower and 2 upper. The 2 lower function what it does is, if I am passing a lowercase letter as a parameter, it will convert that into an uppercase, and similarly if I am passing a uppercase letter as a parameter, a character, it will convert that into if I am passing lowercase, it will convert that into upper, and if I am passing the uppercase, it will convert that into to lower, right. So, this is the conversion between the cases, whether it is the uppercase or the lowercase. Now, let us see the few program which uses this particular function. Now, here the first program is like, I am declaring ch as a variable of type character. You have to make sure that this is a character, single character, it is not a string. String means array of characters. So, here whenever I am using the character handling functions, I must include the header file here c type.h, right. I must include there the c type.h. Then after that, so here I am using the CLR SCR. So, to clear the screen before I print the result of this particular program, it is recommended that whenever you are executing a program, after all declaration, clear the screen before you print the output of your program. The screen must be cleared. It is as same as, say for example, if you have a CCP class, the C programming class after a chemistry class, if the board is not clean and over that only if your teacher writes on the board, then it may not be so clear for you people. So, it is recommended that before the particular class starts, the previous class content must be removed from the subboard. It has to be erased. Similarly, here when you are executing a program, so before you print your data on the screen, so let your program delete whatever the content that is there in the output screen. So, for that erasing we can use here clear screen function. So, CLR it is available in conio.h console input output header. You can include that particular header file. So, here I have not included there, but it is to be included there. Then print of enter a character. You are requesting for entering a character, and here I am reading a character. Note that here it is not percentage %, it is percentage %C for reading a character, and here I am mentioning the address of the character. Address is a normal variable. I must provide the address here. If it is a string, there is a group of characters there. When I am using percentages, I do not provide the address, but when I am reading a character, it is a single data, so I must provide the address there. CH will not be holding the address, so I must provide the address of that. So, here I must use ampersand ch. Now, first in the condition you can see like if is lower ch. Now, the character whichever I am typing there, if it is a lowercase letter, then this particular is lower function will return true. When it return true, what I do now is ch is equal to 2 upper ch. I will convert that particular character into an uppercase letter, and I will store in a variable called ch. I am storing in a same variable called ch. Else means, so if the given this particular function, if the given character is not a lowercase character, then it will return false. So, when it returns false, then what I do is ch is equal to 2 lower ch, means the character is uppercase. So, in that particular case, I say like ch is equal to 2 lower of ch, like, so uppercase will be converted into the lowercase. So, that is what, if the uppercase letter I am passing as parameter, it will convert into lowercase, and if I am passing lowercase as a parameter here, it will convert it into the uppercase. So, here what is the exact I am printing there? The character after reversing case is %c comma ch. Say assume if I am entered capital A as the character, so then the output will be like character after reversing case is lowercase letter a will be printed there. And if I am printing, if I am giving the input as something like a lowercase letter c, then character after reversing case is printed as uppercase letter c. Now, what if I give some digit as input here, neither a lowercase letter nor the uppercase letter. So then, so what happens is lower function return 0, and we do not get any expected answer from the two lower functions, right? It does not perform any particular operation there. So here the ch will get the same data whatever it is there, 9. If I am printing giving as input, then 9 will be printed over there. So then, so this is how this particular simple program that makes use of the functions of c type dot h headers, that is lower and 2 upper, and also the 2 lower being used. Now, if you look into the another program here, so in this particular program what I am trying to do is, so I am declaring a ch as a character variable. So then I am reading a character, enter a character, I am reading the particular character there, then I confirm whether the entered character is digit or an alphabet. Now, if is digit, whatever the character I am entered, if it is a digit, then what I do now is, so printf character percentage c is a digit comma ch. Again I check the condition whether is it a alphabet or not. If is alpha ch, then character percentage c is an alphabet that will be printed there. If assume that if I am giving here as the input as 9, then if is digit 9, so because 9 is a digit, so this particular function is digit to return true. Return true means 1. So when it is 1 here, if 1 means it is always true, it will come to this particular printf statement, and it will print character 9 is a digit. So that is what the printing message what we get here. Now again what happens is, in continuation with the program, I am not using a else here, it will check even here also. If is alpha 9, so this particular function what it does is alpha 9 means 9 is neither a uppercase letter nor a lowercase letter, means it is not an alphabet. This particular function now returns 0. When it returns 0, the value of this particular function call will be 0. When it is 0 there, so if 0 means it is a false, so this particular statement will not be executed. Now what if I enter here something like capital A or lowercase letter a. Now is digit lowercase letter, the ch value if it is a, then is digit a, that becomes false there. So here this particular statement will not be printed there. It will come to the next if statement, if is alpha ch, if is alpha a, so a is a character there, so this particular function return 1. When it returns 1, if 1 is true, and then I will be printing there character A is a alphabet. Now consider a situation if I am entering the value as something like the symbol like plus or minus. Now this here I will check the condition, is digit plus, the ch value will be plus there, is digit plus, the plus is not a digit, so it returns a 0. So if 0 fails, and it will come for the next if statement here, is alpha plus, again plus is not an alphabet, this function also returns a 0, this is same as if 0. When it is if 0 there, so then what happens, this also will fail. When this will fail there, then what happens is like, so this printf is also not printed. So if it is apart from a digit or a character that is an alphabet, then no printf statement will be executed there. We will not be printing any message over there. So if it is a digit, we print that character is a digit. If it is an alphabet, we print like alphabet, character is an alphabet. Now you look into the lab program, we have the in the question number 9 we have two programs. So the second program which makes use of this functions of c type header, c type.h header file. Now here the question is like, read a sentence and print frequency of vowels and total count of consonants. So here we have to read a sentence. In a sentence we have to see like how many vowels do exist in a sentence, and also how many consonants exist there. So now when you are printing here, we are supposed to print the frequency of the vowels. Frequency of the vowels means here, so how many times a is present, how many times e is present, or o is present. So a, e, I, o, u. So these are the vowels of the English alphabet set, and here how many times each of these 5 characters a, e, I, o, u are present in a sentence we are supposed to calculate, and we are supposed to print them. And here make a note that read a sentence. Read a sentence is different from reading a string. When I am reading a string, it is just a sequence of characters, fine. When I am reading a sentence, there can be a space between two strings. So when there is a space between the two strings, then we call that as a sentence, right. So here in programming, now so here what is to be done is, we have to declare to perform this particular operation, we must have a character array to hold the sentence, and then some loop iterators, and since we are supposed to record here the vowel counts and also the consonant counts, so respectively we must have integer data there. So now, so look into this particular code here. So here I am declaring str as an array of 100 characters, then so clear the screen before you print your output, screen must be cleared, and and then so I am declaring these many integer variables. So I so is a loop iterator, then NA is the number of A's, NE refers to number of E's, and NI refers to number of I, similarly number of O, number of U, AE, I, O, U. Each part of these particular variables will hold number of A's we have, number of E's we have, number of I's, number of O's, and number of U's in a given sentence. Similarly, I have N vowels. N vowel means which will hold the data of a number of total vowels present in a sentence, and similarly we have N CONS. This particular data, so variable will hold the total number of consonants present in a string. I take one more variable here, X. So we will get to know in the coding why exactly I am taken here the X there. X as another integer data type. This is for extra characters in a string. If there is a space or multiple space or the tab spaces in a sentence, then those are neither the consonants nor the alphabets. So for recording all those characters, I am using here another variable called X, which mean an extra character. Fine. So here what are the header files required here? So I must include stdio.h for accessing of printf and scanf function. Then we are using ctype.h because ctype.h is required here to confirm whether the character read is an alphabet or not. Next is I must use conio.h header file. So for the CLR STR function here, and also we will use getch. So now so here look into a particular statement here. Enter a sentence. When I am using the statement here, enter a sentence, I must not use here the scanf function. Normally what happens is when I am using the scanf function, when we are entering a string, so after entering a string, if you are leaving a space, then scanf will stop processing reading of the characters of a string. So it will not read the multiple spaces if the string has got, right. So here what is to be done is we must read the getS str. Say what exactly I mean here is, if I say like if I am entering a sentence as something like edusat program, when I am writing there edusat program, after edusat I may leave one space and I may write a program. Now when I leave a space there, then scanf will take only the edusat, it will not take space followed by the program. So whereas getS str when I use here, this is the particular function to read a string in another way, right. This particular getS function is available in stdio.h only. GetS and putS, all these functions are available in stdio.h only, right. So here the getS str means to the array str, whatever the string we go on typing in the keyboard until we press the enter key, all those characters will be stored in the character array str. So here if I write edusat space program, then the getS str will read the complete string along with the space edusat space a program, whereas scanf will read only the edusat. So whenever the space comes, it will stop processing. The functionality of scanf is like it will go on reading the characters one by one, whatever we enter, until it see a space or tab space or a null character or a new line character. So whereas getS will read the sequence of characters until it find the new line character there. So is the reason I must use here the getS function to read the multiple string if I am having in a sentence. So here it is recommended you should use the getS function there. Now initially what is the number of vowels present in the string? So we assume like all the values of NA, NE, NI, NO, NU, N vowels, N consonant and X extra characters, everything we must take it as a 0. So once after, this is a logical initialization here. Initially we have to assume with this particular initialization. Now after reading the string, now what is to be done is from the first character of a string till the last character of the string, we have to go on reading the character one by one. Now, so this is the code here which exactly does the operation. Now for I is equal to 0, when I is equal to 0, I refer to the 0th character in a string, that is str of 0. I will see here str of 0 not equal to null character. So in a string, until the null character is seen, we have to start processing the string. When you are processing the string here, when I is equal to 0, str of 0 is not equal to null character, I come to the loop. And when I come to the loop here, kindly so note this particular statement what I am using here. If not is alpha str of 5, is not if not is alpha means what? Is alpha return true only when the given parameter is an alphabet. If not is alpha means, so if it is not an alphabet, only then this condition will be true. Say for example, if I am giving the 0th character as A, then what happens is it is like if not is alpha of A, the is alpha of A is true, it returns 1, and not of 1 means it becomes false. The condition of if becomes a false over there. So, whenever I come across an particular character which is not an alphabet, only then this particular condition will be a true. So, now whenever this condition is true, what is to be done is I should increment the extra character value there. So, when I increment the extra character value, after that I no need to confirm whether that extra character is an alphabet or sorry consonant or an vowel. So, here I just use the statement continue. Continue, what it does is it will skip the rest of the body of the loop and continues with the next iteration. So, in the next body of the loop what we have switch statement, it will not go for the switch statement, rather it continue with the next iterator of the loop. Now, say for example, I take a string something like hi space students. If I am taking this particular string, this is 0th location, first location, second location, assume this is a single space, then this is 4th location, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. What will be there in the last location? That will be a null character. This is the 11th location. Fine. Now, when I is equal to 0, I will be referring to the h. When I am referring to the h, in the program you can see that. So, when I is equal to 0, if is alpha str of 0. So, this becomes true and not of true means it becomes false. So, this code will not be executed, this block. So, if block will not executed, I will come to the switch case. And when I am using the switch, this is when I have the, instead of using a if else statement continuously, I can use here a switch here. So, this is a multiple branching statement here. So, switch str of 0. In case of the string, so hi space students, str of 0 is a h there. So, when I see the h over there, so now I will see whether is it a vowel or not. So, if it is uppercase A or lowercase a over vowel, so then I may increment the number of A's and then I break from here. When I use the break statement, it will not go for the rest of the cases and it will go out of the switch. So, here when I use the str of 0 as h, it is neither uppercase A nor lowercase a, neither uppercase E nor lowercase e, neither uppercase I nor lowercase I. So, neither uppercase O nor lowercase o, neither uppercase U nor lowercase u, means none of the cases of the switch satisfied. So, when str of 0 is seen, because str of 0 is a consonant. These operations I will take only when I am reading a consonant, only in vowels. So, if none of the cases are satisfied, means that character must be a consonant there. So, then, so what I do now is I will go for the next iteration of the loop. When I is incremented, I becomes 1. So, when I becomes 1, str of 1 not equal to null character. Str of 1 means what there? So, str of 1 means in the example hi student. So, A is the I is equal to 1 means str of 1 is a. When it is a, what I do now is if is alpha a. So, a is an alphabet, this is alpha function returns 1 and negation of 1 means it becomes 0 over there. So, this condition will not be executed there. Then I will come to the switch again. str of 1 means str of 1 is the letter a. So, uppercase letter a, best in the example what you have taken is the lowercase letter a. So, it will go for the second case there. So, second case means either if the uppercase letter a or the lowercase letter a, I must execute this particular statement here. So, it is true that it is a lowercase letter a. Now, what I do now is na plus plus. I increment the value of vowels correspond to the A's, number of A's I just increment. So, further none of these particular cases will be executed. Break means coming out of the switch. When I come out of the switch, the next statement what I have is a incrementation of the I loop, that is a for loop. So, here I go for the next iteration, I becomes 2. When I becomes 2 there, the str of 2 is compared. When str of 2 is hai high. So, that is, so when I am using the high space student there, so I will be the case. So, when I is equal to 2, it is pointing to. So, again, so is alpha str of 2 what is there. So, this condition fails. Again, I will come to the switch and the I value corresponding to that will be incremented ni plus plus. Again, it will go for the coming out of the switch and going for the next iteration of the loop. In the next iteration of the loop, when I is equal to 3, you see here it is a space. When it is a space there, what happens? So, when I come to the loop there, what I execute now is if not is alpha str of 3. When str of 3 is what here? It is a single space there. It is neither an alphabet nor a, so it is not an alphabet. So, now what happens is is alpha str of 3 will return false, that is 0. So, 0 means negation of 0 means it is true, it becomes 1. If 1 means what I do, I execute the block correspond to this if. What I doing there is x plus plus, then continue. X plus plus, why I do, this is an extra character in the sentence, I increment that and then continue, means I no need to check whether is it a vowel or not. I no need to perform this particular redundant operation now, because it is known that when it is not an alphabet, then there is no question in asking whether is it a vowel. So, I do not need to execute this. So, what I do now is I go with the statement continue. What continue does is, so skip the body of the loop from there onwards and then continue with the next iteration of the loop, and this particular process I continue until I find the situation where str of I is equal to null character. That is, when I is equal to 11, we see that str of 11 has become equal to the null character. I come out of this particular loop. When I come out of the for loop, what is to be done? We have so far computed number of a's, number of e's, number of i's, all the frequencies we have computed, and even the extra characters also we have computed. Now, the question is here, we have not seen the counting the number of consonants, but how to count the number of consonant? So, in the total string length, if I remove the number of vowels and if I remove the extra characters, obviously the remaining character what is left in the sentence will be a number of consonants only. So, that is how I can continue that. So, that is number of vowels is number of a's plus number of e's plus number of I, number of o plus number of u, all that I will add up and I make a total count of the number of vowels, and number of consonants will be like I will be the length of the string. You know that we have terminated the processing of the string when you have reached the null character. Null character is present at the end of a string. When it is present at the end of a string, what it means that is the length of the string. So, I remove from the length of the string, I subtract number of vowels and I also subtract number of extra characters that have been seen in the sentence. Then after that, we can get the number of consonants. Now, after this we can print a message like number of a's in the string is percentage DNA, number of e's in the string is percentage DNE, so and so on, all the occurrences of A, E, I, O, U respectively. And then number of vowels in the string is percentage D, number of vowels will print over there, and number of consonant in the string is percentage D, number of consonants also we are printing over there. So, now so this is the kind of output what exactly we can get here. So, if I am stringing here hi students as the input here, we can see like HAI, after that I am leaving one single space. If I am giving this input so to a scanf function, then I can read only HAI, I cannot read the students, right. So, we just read only hi and we may print like number of characters present here is 3, out of which A and I are the vowels and H is the consonant, but that is not the proper output of the code, because here what is the input given is hi space students. So, here when you count the total number of AEIO is the vowels present and the consonant present. So, here we see like we can see like number of A appears once in the sentence and number of E also appears once, number of I also appear once, and number of O also, number of O is nowhere appeared there, so its count is 0, and number of U is appearing one time over there. Then the total number of vowels in the string is 1, 2, 3, 4. So, the 4 is the total number of vowels present in the string, and number of consonants in the string is like it is 7. How exactly I am getting here? Total number of characters including the total number of characters present here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 characters are present there. In the 12 characters, if I subtract the 4 which are vowels, I get 8 characters. Out of 8 characters, if I subtract the special character, that is the single space what I am used there, I get the 7 characters, and those 7 characters are nothing but the consonants, that is H, S, T, D, what all I am using. So, all they are the consonants. So, this is what the output of this particular lab program. Now, so I will stop here. In the next session, I will continue with the concept of 2D arrays of characters, which is nothing but the array of strings. So, before we proceed with the strings, we must have the knowledge of pointers. We will see what exactly the pointers are and how exactly the pointers is related with the strings and arrays. We will see in the next class. Thank you.